Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Welcome all again!
What's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take Hump Day on a Wednesday. Sharp and Shapiro, so glad you could join us. I'm very giddy today. I'm in a really good mood. JD, do you know why I'm in a really good mood today? No, you probably do, but we can't talk about it on the radio. Anyway, anyway, welcome to the show. It's private. It's private.
I just
matter.
have one word.
What's that?
Karma.
Karma. Yeah.
Good word.
Maybe one day we will tell this story on the air, but we can't do it right now. But anyway, inside information. But it's Wednesday. You guys know what that means, right? Means it's In the Ring with Michael Avenatti. Mr. Avenatti will be joining us in hour number 2. And boy, he's bringing along a great guest, folks. This is going to be a lot of fun. His name is David Beatrice. He's a very opinionated, blunt, and honest man, a former Democratic Party chairman. He actually wrote to the Clinton campaign before the 2016 elections, warning them that she was not doing enough in the battleground states and that she was going to lose to Donald Trump. He was right. Not many people predicted that. He did. Very smart man. He'll be joining us along with Michael Avenatti coming up in hour number 2. So that's going to be a lot of fun, a lot to get to. Michael Avenatti, by the way, going after Meghan McCain today. Meghan McCain might be leaving The View. She says, I wanted to say this towards hour number 2, but she said in an interview that she feels exhausted, defeated, and like a caged animal. That's what she said on the show.
She actually said like a caged animal.
A caged animal. No, people are being treated like caged animals, or the kids that are in cages right now. Meghan. God, what a buffoon she is. Anyway.
Wouldn't that imply that she is very wild and aggressive, and that when she gets out of her cage, there's so many things she can accomplish?
Yeah, she hasn't accomplished anything in her life.
I find that very hard to believe when it comes to her.
We'll get to that. That's a very valid point. We'll get to that in hour number 2. But I want to talk about a story that hits home in the biggest way possible. We all remember what happened a few years ago, October 1st, 2017, the mass shooting that killed 58 people. Paddock, the man behind the trigger. Well, we're learning today that a veteran Las Vegas police officer admitted to freezing in the hallway as the casino hotel gunman carried out the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. His name is Officer Cordell Hendricks, but he's not an officer anymore, at least not now. He was fired from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department on March 20th, and they officially made this public today. Metro Police Department refusing to answer any more questions. However, Police Union President Steve Gramis said Hendricks was fired because of his actions during that shooting. He was teaching a rookie officer how to write trespassing tickets at Mandalay Bay Casino when the shooting took place. He heard it on the radio. The trainee and 3 Mandalay Bay security officers ran towards an elevator. They got off on the 31st floor of the hotel while the shooting was happening. Here's where it gets really, really, I'm not going to even use the term interesting. Pathetic is the word I would use. So he gets to a floor below where he believed the gunman was firing, and body camera footage shows this Officer Hendricks leading the group down a hallway before they hear the first of at least 5 separate volleys of gunfire in a 3-minute span. Hendricks is heard saying, "That's rapid fire," and then he shouts out an expletive. So he knew exactly what was going on. He knew that there were shots being fired and perhaps people were being killed. Now, maybe he didn't know there was one shooter. Maybe he didn't know a lot more information, but he knew that there was something really bad going on, and he said it.
Okay.
So the group stops, and Hendricks uses his radio to tell dispatchers he can hear the gunfire. After they're advised to take cover, what seemed to be from an automatic gunfire, the group just stands in the hallway for 5 minutes doing absolutely nothing. It doesn't end there. Keep in mind, this is when people are being massacred. They're being killed, slaughtered. Then, to make matters worse, Hendricks leads them in the hallway to the 32nd floor. They remain there for 15 minutes. So for 20 minutes, this officer did absolutely nothing. To me, this sounds exactly like Scott Peterson from the school shooting over again.
It's definitely neglect to some degree. Do you know how armed they were and what kind of weapons they had on them at the time? Or were they armed at all?
I don't have that information, but absolutely they were armed because this police officer, I would assume his trainee was armed as well. And then Mandalay officers, I believe some security's armed as well. So there had to be several people there that were armed. Look, This is the amazing part about this whole thing, okay? And Hendricks acknowledged in the police report that he was terrified with fear. That's what he said. Then you shouldn't have been a police officer. And 99% of police officers are heroes. Don't you give me this stuff, oh, you don't support the cops. No, I do. Firefighters, police officers, 99% of them are heroes. And I talk about that all the time, and I defend the police any way I can. This man is a coward.
And, usually I would say this kind of sounds like a scapegoat, but if there's actual body cam footage, this is the real deal.
Yeah. The amazing thing is that this guy, Gramis from the police union, is saying that he's doing everything he can to try to get this guy reinstated. Forget about criminal charges. This guy believes that this officer should be back on the streets.
Where?
Is that the kind of guy that you want? If there's a home invasion, God forbid, or something in your life, is this the type of officer you want to? Maybe he'll just wait outside your door for 20 minutes if he hears gunshots.
I certainly don't want him at schools, but maybe at an old folks' home.
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't even want him doing that.
Jeez.
I don't want this guy. This guy should not be a cop.
Clearly.
I mean, here's the big issue with this whole thing. And let's just, it's amazing to me that there are some people out there that are defending this guy. The amazing thing here is that during that span when Paddock was firing and spraying bullets outside his hotel window.
I'm just shocked
hold on.
Okay.
You do what I do all the time. You finally interrupted me. Now I know how it feels. But what I was saying was this guy, Paddock, who was shooting outside that window, imagine the lives that could have been saved if this police officer, his trainee, and those security guards approached that door.
I mean, there was 500 wounded, and between wounded and killed, there's about 500, right? 550. Mm-hmm. I would imagine if they gave him roughly 30 more minutes, is what it sounds like, to keep doing what he was doing, assuming he was by himself, which it sounds like he was. Mm-hmm. You could be looking at 300 people.
Oh, no question.
Half. I mean, not just the kill, but also the wounded.
Now, what happened when finally police officers and finally, the SWAT team got up there? The man, for a few minutes there, tried to have an escape plan, but he ended up taking his own life. Just maybe that would have happened earlier. Now, even if somebody on the transmission said, no, stand down, stand your ground, you hear gunshots fired for that period of time. I don't understand when you sign up to be a police officer how you could just stand down and do nothing. Now, is there a chance that this officer could have been shot, killed? Is there a chance that his trainee and some of those security guards could have been injured or killed? Absolutely. It is a dangerous job when you sign up to be a police officer.
I'm really surprised that they didn't have something on them that could easily break down a door. I mean, what you would assume if they're policing
SWAT, they have all that stuff.
Okay, but why wouldn't a police officer have the exact same thing? And was SWAT on premise at the time?
No, that's the problem.
Exactly.
It took them too long to get up there.
So did they even have the proper training for something like that? I mean, does the LVPD train them like that?
I can guarantee you right now, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff, but if there is a distress call, there's something going on, and you hear gunshots, you want to try to do anything to apprehend that person, anything in your means. It's not like they were going after a militia.
Right. The only thing that makes sense to me is that they heard rapid fire, which indicates automatic weapons.
Right.
And they had pistols themselves, and they didn't have something to break down the door, and they just thought that they were not. They were ill-prepared to take on whatever was going on in that room.
But for 20 minutes,
I totally agree. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it almost sounds like he just kind of froze, like
That's
you said.
That's what he said. He said that. I'm not saying that.
If he actually froze and had some type of mental, like a borderline,
here's what says it all.
A borderline brain fart / stroke.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible.
Here's what says it all, and this is what he
stricken with fear.
This is what he even wrote in the report. He said he was terrified with fear. Guess what? If you're a police officer and you hear gunshots and your response in a police report, or at that time your response is, oh my God, I'm terrified with fear, you shouldn't be a cop, folks. Okay, let me pose this question to all of you listeners out there. And I want to take your phone calls on this at 257-5396. Do you think this guy should be a cop again? I would argue that maybe criminal charges should be put down on this guy. We saw what happened with Scott Peterson at the Parkland shooting, right? And I thought that was rightfully so. Do you think this is a similar situation? Am I overreacting? Are we overreacting? And do you think this guy deserves to be a cop and he did absolutely nothing wrong? I want to take your phone calls on this. What do you guys think out there? Hey, maybe I'm wrong here, but this makes me livid when a police officer sits around for 20 minutes and doesn't do anything. Let me just give out the number real quick, and then I'll get your response. Number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the program. What do you think about this? 702-257-5396. 5396.
I think if they had the proper training to handle a situation like that, he should absolutely face criminal charge because he was trained, he was prepared. Now, if he didn't have that training, then I think you've got to talk to LVPD and say, hey,
they're not commenting on this.
I mean,
they're not talking about it.
I think that could
There's
be part
a reason
of it.
for that.
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
If these officers were ill prepared for a situation like this, and I guarantee it'll never happen again, but if they were, then you can't. I don't think that you can reasonably press charges against this guy. But if he was properly trained and you still chose not to, then absolutely.
All right, we'll see what you think out there. Again, the number to call 257-5396 702-257-5396. Let's start with Gary. Gary, what's going on?
Hey, Gary.
Hey, I kind of differ with you, especially with the criminal charges.
Okay.
And if it was a school and there was children, and sometimes I'll tell you forward, it takes a man to admit it. I'd be scared hell. I'm going to get all shut up.
But Gary, Gary, I understand. I'd be scared too. But guess what? You and I have not signed up to protect and serve, have we?
But he's not a combat soldier.
He doesn't have. But he's a cop.
That,
but Gary, he's a police officer. His job is to protect and serve. He's not a regular citizen.
You need to praise and what do you call it, the heroes, because not everyone's
I do that all the Gary. I do that all the time.
Now he realizes he shouldn't be a police officer, but it's too late.
No, he doesn't. He does, Gary.
He's just a human being,
but Gary,
and sometimes
Gary, that's the problem. Gary, hold on a second. What you said is not correct. He still wants to be a police officer, Gary. If he said, you know what,
that part
Gary,
I didn't hear. No,
Gary,
he shouldn't be a police officer.
Yeah, Gary, we agree. Gary, here's the thing.
Especially in this day and age.
I agree, Gary. Okay, here's the thing, Gary. If he said right now, God, I effed up. I was scared and I effed up and I wish I would have acted differently. I screwed up. Maybe you're right. Maybe I would say, okay, I have a little bit of respect for him for at least admitting it, which, by the way, Peterson never did in the Parkland shooting. But does anyone out there think this guy should be a cop again? I think there should be some criminal charges. But do you think that he should be a cop again? I'll answer. I want to get both of those questions answered. 257-5396. Brady, you're up next. What's up, Brady?
Yeah, right on, Brian. I want to bring up the Parkland shooting because what happened in Parkland when that cop failed to rush in when all the shots were going off and all those kids were getting blasted, they changed the law. If you're a security guard or a cop and there's firing going on inside a building, you are required by law to rush right in.
Now, is that the law here, Brady? Brady, is that the law here?
Pardon me?
What's the law here, though?
I don't know. I think they're adopting that across the whole U.S.
Well, good. I agree with that. I hope you do, too.
Oh, I do. And the thing is, I saw a lot of the survivors' families, or the people that got shot in Vegas here, their families are now suing the gun manufacturer.
Good.
And
Good.
That's ludicrous.
You don't think so?
I think that's ludicrous because.
Well, okay.
Are you going to go after every car that kills someone?
Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. Let me rethink that a little bit. I'm not sure you can blame the gun manufacturer. I actually tend to agree with you on that. But I think some laws need to change, and maybe that's not the gun manufacturer's fault. So in that aspect, Brady, yes, I do agree with you.
Well, and I think with these cops that failed to go in, and the people that need to be held accountable are Mandalay Bay, their security force. A lot of them people, they don't have guns. You mentioned that they should have guns, but they don't. And that was the problem.
But the police officer did. But, Brady, I'm sure you would agree. The police officer was armed. I would assume his trainee was armed. They did nothing. They stood there for 20 minutes. They did nothing.
Exactly. They should be fired on the spot, not given a job ever again in the security force, nothing.
Brady, I appreciate your call, Brady. I got to get to some other callers. Good call. I appreciate it. I don't necessarily disagree with you as far as suing the gun manufacturers. Mandalay Bay, that's a completely different story. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Vic. Vic, what's up?
That guy is a bleeping coward. He should never get bleeping cop, and he should paint rainbow murals on the bleeping wall.
Okay, can I ask you a question, Vic? Oh, did we lose Vic? I think Vic hung up.
This is what Vic does every day.
Yeah, he just calls in. Well, Vic,
I have to respect the originality.
Well, Vic, here's why I don't respect it, because 58 people died, and this is not a laughing matter. There's nothing funny about 58 people dying. This is a very serious subject about a police officer who I think acted in a cowardly fashion. There's nothing funny about that. The number to call, 257-5396. Let's go to Doug. Doug, what's going on?
Brian.
Doug. What's going on?
It is snowing and freezing in hell right now because for the first time, I actually agree with you.
Well, I am elated. I am joy. Maybe it has something to do with the 4th of July. I don't know.
No, on a serious note, actually, my son was there. He is a police officer, and
is he really? So so was he there when the shooting was happening?
Well, as it was, he came in about halfway when he had first started shooting.
Oh my
he wasn't
goodness!
there when it first started.
I got you, but he was on the scene. I get it. He was a response. He must have seen some horrible stuff.
And he was, as he was going through the doors, heading for the stairwells, he was yelling to the other cops, "We've got to advance on this. We've got to advance on this."
Right. So let me ask you a question, Doug. And what does your son think about this? You haven't given your son's name, so nobody's getting in trouble. But your son being a Metro cop, what does he think about this Officer Hendricks, who said he froze? I mean, I think he's a coward.
Yeah, he won't go so far as to say that, but because I actually asked him about it just yesterday when I saw it in the paper, and he said that he wouldn't want him guarding his back.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is and Doug, I appreciate your son's service, by the way, and I'm glad that he was one of those officers that said, approach. But Doug, I just think this makes the Metro Police Department looks bad. It makes Mandalay Bay look bad. It makes everybody look bad, really.
Well,
and the fact,
it does.
But here's the thing, Doug. We've got these members of the police union. This guy Steve Gramas, who thinks Hendricks should be a cop again.
No, and I'll bet you if you were sitting around over a beer with the rank and file, they wouldn't agree with that.
Of course, Doug, I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Hey, Doug, I got to get to some other callers, my friend. I apologize, but I'm glad we agree. That's not always a good thing, by the way. I like disagreeing with people as well. Thank you, Doug. 257-5396. Veronica, you are next. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. I just wanted to say that I completely agree. He should not be an officer. He did have a job, and he did not do it.
Yeah, I mean, Veronica, last I checked, when you sign up to be a cop, your job is to protect and serve. When you have an officer waiting and sitting there for 20 minutes that is armed and makes absolutely no effort to stop the suspect, even if he thought there were 3 or 4 gunmen there, you have to at least approach and see if you can do something. Nothing was done. And now why are we learning about this a couple years later? There's a reason for that, Veronica, because I personally believe there are a lot of people that did not want this story ever to be made public.
Correct. I completely agree with you 100%.
Veronica, thank you for the call. Good to hear from you, my friend. 257-5396. Let's go to Jim. Jim, what's going on?
Hey, you know what? I'm just calling to probably reiterate the same thing everybody else. I agree 100% with you, okay? And I have a member of my family that's a police. I call him a cop. Now that's a wrong. People say officer because he's not in the military.
Right.
Okay. A cop is constable on patrol. That's what my cousin, which is a cop, told me. That's the proper terminology. Anyway, aside from that, I feel that you're completely correct. When a cop goes in or an officer goes in, they're trained to go in there and not freeze up. I mean, if they should be trained and retrained so that they know that cop is qualified to go in and do his job.
Right.
And that's how I feel. I believe that the cop was not trained properly. And if he was a friggin' coward. I put my line. He was a damn coward.
Well,
I totally agree.
And here's what it says at all, Jim, about the coward part that you just mentioned, which I've said as well. He said in the police report he was terrified with fear. Now, you could still be terrified with fear, but still do your job.
Now, let me ask you this. What if...
They're all terrified with fear, but they do their job. They do it well.
Exactly.
Brian, let me ask you this. Now, what if...
Thank you for the call, Jim, by the way. We appreciate it.
What if the officers weren't trained?
Well, that's not true. They are trained.
I'm saying for a situation like that, which is a highly sensitive...
Listen, they're all trained in a situation to try to apprehend a suspect that is armed. Every single police officer is trained. Now, we're not talking about a militia. We're not talking about 30 or 40 gunmen. And even if they thought there was more than one shooter, they knew it was coming from a hotel room. They knew what floor it was on. He knew, and he did absolutely nothing. They are trained to do anything and everything possible to stop the threat. They are trained to stop the threat.
They don't have SWAT training. They don't have military training.
You don't need SWAT training and military training to apprehend a suspect that has a weapon.
You might in a situation like
that.
No,
you don't.
When you know there's 50, 60,000 people within a shooting distance.
Listen, if a cop is going after a shoplifter with a gun,
I understand
it's the same
that,
thing.
But I would prefer in a situation like that, if the hotel's near within a distance of 50 or 60,000 people just wide out there in the open, if the cops or if the officers that are on duty that day in that casino have that next level training. I think moving forward, you're going to see that that's going to be the case.
Well, I'm just really angered by the fact that we're just learning about this story now.
Yeah, it took way too long. 16 to 18 months.
It's absolutely and positively absurd.
It really makes it really makes things like it kind of
makes you think
questionable and borderline shady.
Makes you think a little bit. Number to call 257-5396. Niall is next. Niall, thank you for calling in.
What's up, Niall?
Hey, thank you guys for all what you guys do. Look, there was remember an incident in Texas where the guy shot up the church. It was it was a civilian. It was a normal guy who went over there and shot him.
Hold on, Niall. Are you talking? Hold on, Niall. Hold on. Are you talking about the white kid who went up and shot all the African Americans in the church? Is that what you're talking about? Which story?
No, I'm talking about a story that happened in somewhere in Texas at a church.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
At a church.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It was a normal civilian, a gun owner that went over there and shot him.
Right.
And distracted the shooter.
Right.
Now, with this cop, it's wrong what he did. I would like to know how long has he been in the force? Has he been trained? And it's wrong what he did because he would have saved at least one life.
Oh, hold on. Let me answer your question. This is not a rookie cop. Officer Hendricks has been a cop since 2007.
Oh,
okay?
Man.
This is a guy that was a 10-year veteran. Okay? So that's got to change a little bit now. I mean, 10 years he's been on the force.
Well, not only that, but he also has a great insurance policy, if that's the case, and probably well on his way to a pension. So he already has assumed that risk.
Absolutely.
Why would he not try to stop the situation?
10 years, Jamie.
That's odd. If he was a 1 or 2 year vet, but a 10-year vet?
This is a 10-year vet on the job. Disgusting. 257-5396 the number to call. Let's go to Robert. Robert, what's going on?
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good, Robert. What's on your mind?
The guy who just called, that's the reason why SWAT was implemented, because what happened at that place in Texas where the guy was up in the perch shooting down at people.
Yes.
That's why the whole SWAT team came about.
And I understand that, Robert. I get that point, Robert, but hang on one second here. Let me just pull back on a little bit here. If you know that shots are being fired, and listen, make no mistake about it, this cop knew what was going on. He's on record saying he knew what was going on. And no effort is made to stop the suspect or suspects. There's one word for that, in my opinion. It's called being a coward.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm getting at. That SWAT was invented for them to go in there, no matter what the situation is, to go in there.
Right.
And SWAT did not do that. They were huddled in the stairwell, waiting for the guy to run out of bullets. I don't know what they were doing, but they were totally wrong with doing that. They could have saved lives.
Absolutely. I could have. Look, make no mistake about it. In that first 5 minutes, when they first heard gunshots and they went up to the floor, let's just hypothetically, Robert, think for a second. Let's assume that Hendricks did his job and he's a hero and he shot down that damn door. Now, maybe he would have been hurt. Maybe he would have been killed. I wish that didn't happen, but a part of me says I wish he did shoot down that door. You know why? Because it would have saved lives. It would have meant that Paddock, this scumbag Paddock, would have focused his attention on the police officer or security guard's officer instead of all those innocent people that were on the ground.
Look back at that Texas thing and look at this situation. It's exactly the same thing. The people were just kicking back, watching.
It's disgusting.
There's very exact parallels to that.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So, thank you, Robert, for the call. I appreciate it. Good call. What would we say, and by the way, the number to call, 257-5396, to Police Union President Steve Gramis. I am gonna request he come on the show. And the reason why is because he is not only saying that Hendricks shouldn't be fired, he's also saying not only does he want this guy to get his job back, he doesn't think Hendricks did anything wrong. Now, I understand when you're the police union president, you're going to do everything in your power to defend police officers. But with that being said, when an officer does something wrong, what type of person are you to defend the officer's actions? It reminds me a little bit of Dana Loesch with the NRA. I hate to make that comparison. Doesn't matter what the NRA does. Loesch says, they can't do anything wrong.
It's okay.
It's the same thing.
The word you're looking for is apologist.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, it's disgusting. This is our community. I've lived in this town for almost 20 years. This is the largest mass attack shooting in our history.
Hey, come on. Why did this take 18 months to come out?
Well, I don't think they wanted it to come out. That's what I think. And look, all the details on the shooting, how officers responded, The story kept changing 24 hours, 48 hours, 3 days later. The story kept changing. And like I said, and I will say it again, I respect the heroes, the men and women, not just who serve, but, overseas, serve, fighting wars, our veterans, but also police officers, firefighters, because they save lives and they're heroes. And when you sign up for something like that, you have to know that it is an extremely dangerous job. And certainly at some point in your career, you're going to be faced, maybe not faced with something that this guy Hendricks had to face, but I'm sure Hendricks had to face situations where somebody had a gun before. I would be shocked if he never did. Now, Metro Police, they're not answering any questions. I would love to know.
Here's a question.
I would love to know the interview that he gave.
Do you think that Hendricks possibly thought that they were outnumbered, that there was so many shooters that they were outnumbered?
Well, let's just assume for a moment that he thought there were several shooters. Let's just assume that. Or let's say hypothetically that a home has been invaded and there are several shooters in the home. You hear gunshots going off. Do you stand outside for 20 minutes? Or do you make an attempt to stop the threat? That is what police officers are supposed to do.
I'm not saying this happened, but if I'm there with 3 other officers, and most of them are trainees, and I've got a pistol, and I think that I'm up against 5 or 6 guys with assault weapons, and I think I'm a sitting duck, it may make me a little apprehensive.
Well, apprehensive is one thing, but saying that you were scared and sitting outside.
Clearly he was apprehensive, but I would love to talk to him and find out how many shooters.
Impossible.
How many?
Never going to happen.
I'm saying I would love to.
Never going to happen.
How many shooters he actually thought there were in real time?
We got to take a quick break. When we come back, you're not going to believe this story, folks. A 17-year-old raping a 16-year-old, you're not going to believe what the judge said in getting him off. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to The Vegas Take.